Hello everyone, today I'm going to show you how I built up my To and Fro train station, which has only one entrance and exit. The stations you see are what I set up to transfer resources from my initial base to my new location near the waterfall. I have yet to design and structure my train station, and I have only created the base for it and run the trains for a while to check if there are any issues with my setup. I'll open the map for you guys to see where I'm sending and receiving resources. The stations near me is where I will send all of my resources from my starting base and load them into the train, which I will then send to the train stations shown near the waterfall on the map. I have set up a small station to show you guys how I did it. This is the platform, where I will show you guys. The station close to me is not operational due to a train station issue, which I shall explain shortly. However, the station further away is operational and you can see that as well. I have edited the timetable and added the 2 train stations and made it to drive on its own. Now it started from that train station and will go back to the train station from where it started. I will now set up a new station and explain you guys how I did it. When setting up a To and Fro station, make sure that the train station is pointed in the right direction. The train station should point it in the opposite direction to the train reaching that station like I am showing here. The orange arrow is pointing away from the train arriving here, which is critical, and it should be comparable to the other train station you are constructing on the other end. Now I'm setting the freight platform to transport resources from point A to point B. Now I am setting up the tracks to the other train station. Just like I mentioned before, the train station on this side should also be pointing the other way. I'm now constructing the freight platform on this side as well. And I am connecting the tracks between the stations. Now, let's try setting up the locomotive and cargo in the setup. Take caution when assembling the locomotive. This design necessitates the use of 2 locomotives, as I will tell you why in a moment. I decided to show you guys what will happen if we have only 1 locomotive and 1 freight car. Because the train needs to go to the other station, I'm placing the freight car first, followed by the locomotive pointing to the other station. Now I will set the timetable. I observed the no electricity sign after entering the train and went to connect the electricity to this station. I believe you already know that you must connect the power to the station, and the complete station and setup will carry the electricity once linked. As you can see, I am able to move the train after entering it manually by using the W key. Now I will set up the timetable. Press E to enter the locomotive. Now, press Q to open the train menu. And this is the train menu, which displays a variety of options. The entire map can be seen on the right, as well as the 2 options to select at the bottom that say, Edit the timetable, and Turn on self-driving. You can see to the left that it says manual driving, which is because the Delph driving option is turned off, and you can edit the train name as well. The power will fluctuate when the train is running. The 2 stations can be seen by scrolling the map. You will only be able to observe the existing network, which is linked together by tracks, and you will only be able to drive between these two stations. Now on to editing the timetable. The available stations and the current timetable are displayed. The current is empty, and we must fill it with the available stations from the left panel and save it. Despite the timetable I set, the train will not move, and you must activate the self-driving option within the train panel. You can see that the train has begun to move. Remember, I have just set one locomotive and it is still operating. The train has reached the station and it has began docking. When I open the train menu, I can see that the next station is station 15, which is the station where we started, and I am currently waiting for the train to move. And we got the status of the locomotive as, next stop is unreachable. This is because the locomotive is not able to push the freight back to the station. This is because the engine is pointed in one direction and we need another locomotive going in the opposite direction to travel in the opposite direction. And that is what I am going to do, by adding another locomotive at the other end of the train. Before I could alter the timetable, the train began moving since the train would now be able to travel between the two stations without the requirement for a separate entrance and an exit. Now, this will continue forever and you can load the resources in one end and unload in the other. Regarding the train station and freight platform, you can configure them as well. You cannot configure a freight platform when the train is currently docked, but you can configure the train station itself. The train station panel shows you the power this train station is connected to, and the timetable panel shows the timetable we set up in the train and the train's name. Since the train left, we can now configure the freight platform. You may load all of the resources here, as well as set the train setting to load or unload by toggling the bottom button. I'm going to leave this station to load the resources. I am loading a small amount of computers in this station to show you guys. Now I am going to the other station where I will set the freight platform to unload. Doing this is really important, or else nothing will be unloaded. Now, I'll show you what happens if we leave both platforms to load resources when sending resources between two stations. Since the train is in this station and I am not able to configure the freight platform, I will go to the other to load the resources. I am loading a small amount of computers in this setup as well and set the settings to load in this station. You can see that the computer is starting to get loaded on the train on that platform. And now I am leaving this train station setting to load as well. If we return to the previous station, where the load and unload is properly established between the two stations, we can observe that the computer is being unloaded here promptly. Now to the other setup, where both the stations are set to load. The train successfully loaded the computer from the other station. But nothing is happening in this station, because this station is also set to load. And the train just starts moving back to the train station where it loaded the computer and never unloads it. Now I will show you why the train in the middle is not moving at all. If you compare this train station to the other, the station is not set properly and is facing the wrong direction, which I explained initially. The rail stations should be turned away from one another rather than towards one another, and the entire network should be connected as soon as possible. I have also set 2 locomotives properly in the setup. If I enter a train where the stations are not properly configured, a pop-up message stating, "Station unreachable," appears. You can only delete a train setup when the train is completely stopped or when it is docked. Now, I am setting the train stations properly in this setup. And I am going to the other side to change the direction of the train station. Now both the train stations are facing away from each other. And I didn't forget to connect the station to the power so that trains can work properly. Now I will set the train. I have set both the locomotives facing away from each other for this to and fro setup. You can also see that the train does not move and says, "Locomotive has no timetable," if you switch on self-driving option. When the stations are properly aligned, the locomotives are properly aligned, the timetables are properly set, and the self-driving option is activated, the train moves without any issue. Now, I will show you, we can also set up multiple to and fro stations in a single network like below. I've already configured the network so that the train spends less time at each station. To do that, you need to open the train panel by pressing Q and click on Edit Timetable option and once again clicking on the options in each station. And you can edit the Wait For displayed in seconds. I have set it to 5, but it is usually 15 by default. Now, before the train arrives in the loading station, I am adding some resources into each freight platform. Concrete in one platform and iron rods in the other. The train has arrived at the main loading station and will soon begin loading. I'll just show you one round of the setup. You can see that both the concrete and iron rods are being loaded into the train. Now, it has done one loop carrying the resources from one station to 2 different stations and unloaded it depending on the location of the freight platform. So be careful where you are placing it and which resource needs to be unloaded. Now, to show you guys how I built this network with 3 stations. waiting for the train to dock, so that I can stop the self-driving and show you how I did it. It's really simple. Now, it's switched off. I'll remove the train lines leading to the third station and return to the original setup to show you how I did it. Initially, the train tracks was a longer one. Now, I know the location where I want to turn towards my third station, but in general it's the same concept. So I am deleting the main track, as I need to turn the tracks. Now, you should already know, but if you want to do 90° in the tracks, you need to have 3x3 foundations. So, I am changing the type of foundations for us to know easily. I am marking 3 foundations towards the track and another 3 foundations towards the turn I want to do, in this case towards the station B from station A. Now I am turning the tracks like I am showing. You can see that it's aligned properly, and if I move one step back or forward, it is not aligned properly. So need to be careful. After connecting the last bit, now 2 stations are connected. Now I am doing another turn using the same 3x3 foundations and connecting the other 2 stations. Changing the type of foundations to make it easy for me. You can now see the corner or edge of the tracks where I finished the turn. Now I'm starting the next turn from the same spot so that it's consistent and uses the same tracks to go to the station. I'm aligning the turn such that it's properly aligned with the original track. And I am connecting the station B with station C using the tracks. Now station A is connected with station B and station B is connected with station C. I am changing the type of concrete back to original and I am going to connect station C with station A. Similar to before, from the corner of the turn I am creating a new track or path and connecting it to the other corner of the track. Now the setup is done between all 3 stations. Now to check, I am clicking on self-driving and it's saying operational on the left and the train is also moving to the right station. This concludes the video in which I discussed what I done for my To and Fro setup. I may have made some errors or could have done better, so please let me know in the comments and I will alter my setup and pin the comments. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please consider liking my video and subscribing for more future content. Goodbye for now, see you in another video.